This is the first text I sent to get my first client using cold outreach. It took me a whole year to get this first client. It took me another 9 months just to get my second client, and then 30 days to get my third client. So I'm going to try to teach you everything that I learned to get those first 3 clients so that hopefully it doesn't take you 2 whole years to close 3 clients like it did for me. And I'm going to show you the system that you can use to guaranteed get clients within the next 2 weeks. Back to my first client. So way back in 2019 when Moses was still around and before I was chopped and unk, I bought this course from this guy named Jason Capital, and it was basically just how to start an Instagram agency. It was basically called How to Become an Instagram Agent, basically helping businesses grow on Instagram using these different strategies. And it had a lot of good advice on how to actually grow on Instagram, but it didn't have any real advice on how to actually get clients. The advice was just reach out to businesses. So for me at the time, I knew absolutely nothing about business or how to reach out to people. So I just started going on Instagram, looking up hashtag business, reaching out to random e-commerce brands, and I would send a couple messages here and there. Also, the Instagram account that I was reaching out on didn't mention anything about business at all. It was just my personal page. So I would send about like 5 messages and then I would just stop because I felt very cringe. I would like even unsend messages because I felt weird sending messages to people. And I did this maybe 3 separate times, maybe 15 total messages sent out to these e-commerce brands trying to get them interested in Instagram agent services, whatever that meant. And looking back, this is the first lesson that I should have learned way back then, but I did not learn. And I give a lot of credit to Alex Hormozi, who says this all the time now, but it is, you're going to have to put a lot more effort in than you think. It doesn't take that much more to send like 20, 30 messages in a day, but I would send 5 a day, maybe 3 times in 2 weeks. I remember I went to my favorite restaurant, Chuy's, and someone actually recognized me in there and recognized me from my videos. And he said, "Oh, I love your videos." And he told me his offer. He was a videographer. He was trying to sell video editing services. And he said that he was getting clients. It was just very slow for him. And his offer was basically, "I'll do it for free. I'll do a free video edit for you. And if it works, you can pay me per video edit, blah, blah, blah." He said he was doing 20 messages on Instagram per week. And my only advice, you're doing 20 messages per week, you should be doing 200 messages per day. If you literally just do 200 messages a day, you'll be able to quit your job within 2 weeks. It's that easy, right? And he was kind of shocked, but it's so much more linear than you think it is. It's just, if you're doing 20 messages, you're getting a 5% positive response rate and a 2% booking rate. Then within 50 messages, you're getting 1 booked call. Congratulations. If I'm doing 20 per week, that takes me almost 3 weeks to get 1 booked call. If I'm doing 50 per day, then I'm getting a booked call every single day. If I do 100 per day, I'm getting 2 booked calls a day. If I'm doing 1,000 messages per day, I literally get 20 calls from those 1,000 messages. And it's really not that hard to scale to 1,000 messages. There's a lot of automation tools that will do all that for you. But in the end, years later, I realized that the more messages I send out, obviously, the more clients I get. But I'm also going to get way more negative replies. People saying, "I'm not interested," or "Why are you reaching out to me?" People taking shots at you. But the only reason they're doing that is because you're annoying them. And if we're not really annoying anybody, then we're not getting in front of anybody. So I would say that you're trying to get someone responding negatively every single day, because if you're at least not getting someone responding negatively, then you're probably also not getting anyone responding positively. So if you haven't received a nasty message as a response today, you're probably not doing enough. I just thought I had to hold up some sort of image when I was reaching out to these people, but no one knew who I was to begin with. It doesn't really matter. Now, a whole year passed from when I bought that initial course from Jason Capital on how to build an Instagram agent system, whatever. And I learned a lot more about Instagram. I really didn't do much outreach at all to try to get clients. I just learned about Instagram. I tried to grow my own Instagram page. And I bought a few other courses, and I felt like I needed to get my money's worth out of these courses because I spent a lot on them. And there was like these Facebook groups I was a part of. And so I started just reaching out to these people in these Facebook groups. Now, these were warm connections. I was reaching out to people that I already knew, just people that I met in these groups. And this is when I texted Lucas here, and he actually became my very first client. And I got extremely lucky here because I'd only sent out maybe 10 messages to people that I already knew, and one of them actually turned into a client. I was just lucky, right? And it's not going to happen for you. I don't think that will happen. Hopefully you do get lucky, but for the most part, you're probably going to, like I said, have to send like 200 messages per day rather than 20 per week. And I did kind of notice this with some of the successful people that I know or people that I'm friends with, is that they actually also got kind of lucky to where it kind of fueled the fire to keep them going. So for example, I talked to a guy named Thomas M, and he was trying to get clients on Upwork, and he actually got his first client within like the first 3 days of starting on Upwork. And he thought, oh, it's going to be really easy to get them the next client. It took him another 6 months before he got the next client after the first client. And he just got lucky that first time, because usually if you're just starting an account, like people aren't going to hire you because you don't have any testimonials or any work that he's done previously. So it's very rare that someone will hire you if you have nothing on your Upwork account. Same thing with Keaton Walker, a friend of mine who actually sold his agency. I did a video with him. His first client was basically, he had a friend whose dad was an orthodontist, and he just reached out to him, and luckily he said yes. Okay, back to my first client. So I started working with him more consistently. It started with like like just a $500 per month retainer. I was just going to grow his Instagram, but then it turned into me doing more work for him, but them also paying me more money. So I started doing Facebook ads for him, getting good at that. I learned a ton of stuff. It was a great experience, but after 6 months, I just wanted to split ways and try to start my own thing again, because it kind of just became a full-time job working with this one guy. So I wanted to figure out a way to actually scale to get more clients rather than being stuck at just another job. Now, at this time, I started dabbling in a whole bunch of different things, like maybe I should start e-commerce or real estate or investing. Not that I had any real money to do any of those things. I was just trying to think about what other opportunity is out there that might make me more money. But in the end, I chose just to stick to what I was already doing, which was just doing marketing. So I was going to start my own marketing agency. So for you, I'm not saying that you should do what I do. That's the thing with every guru, is they're going to try to lead you down the path of what they do because that's what worked for them. But if you're already big into real estate, just keep going into real estate, right? Make real estate your full-time thing. So it was time for me to start my own marketing agency, and I bought a few courses on how to start an agency, and those courses sucked too because they didn't really talk about how to actually get clients. There's a ton of information on how to run Facebook ads. There was no reason for me to pay for a course on how to run Facebook ads when there's thousands of videos on YouTube on how to do that, but there's barely any videos on how to actually get clients for that. There's a ton of videos on videography. I used to watch a ton of different videos about cameras and lenses and blah, blah, blah. There was barely any videos on, I remember at the time when I was really young in the 2019, I was like, maybe I should start a video production business. There was like there was maybe one video on how to actually get clients, and it was like, send emails to your friends and family. And I was like, I don't have anyone, friends or family, that I could sell this to. That's why I try to focus on how to actually get the clients, because no one else talks about that. And that's the most important part. You don't have anything else unless you have clients coming in. Now, back to the courses I was taking on how to start a marketing agency. So they gave terrible advice, and that terrible advice was stick to one niche for 6 months. So pick something that you maybe know or understand, or maybe something that you don't know or understand, learn about it, and then stick to it for as long as you can, because that's how you gain momentum, right? And I just talked about that. You kind of want to stick to what you already know. The only problem with this is that's terrible advice, because what I did was a little smarter. I called 100 businesses in 5 different industries. And I called them and I just said, hey, what problems do you have right now? How would you need help? Is there any specific clients that you want more of? Like, just asking questions so I knew how to market to them. And pest control companies were actually the most responsive, and they gave me really good answers. They said, we want more bed bug heat treatments, and we hate relying on word of mouth. And so that became my tagline. I'm like, well, I know exactly what these pest control companies want. And so I actually started reaching out to these companies consistently on Facebook and LinkedIn. I was maybe getting 5 people interested per week, and then about 2 to 3 people that were actually open to booking a call with me. The only problem was that these people were broke, and it was a terrible idea because no one had the money to spend on ads. They all wanted me to work for them for free and only do pay per close, which is fine. You can do that, but usually they're broke because they're not working hard or not even working the leads that they currently have. So if I just send you a whole bunch of leads and you don't work them, then I'm wasting my money on ads. So I realized within the first few weeks that no one's willing to pay. Everybody wants work for free. And eventually I did get a client, but I didn't make any money off the client, and eventually he wanted a refund, so I actually lost money on that client. But it took me about a month and a half of actually doing consistent outreach every day to get that person to actually pay me very little money. And at the time I thought, well, everyone was telling me to stick to this for 6 months. And that was a terrible idea because I'm barely getting anything right now. And if I would have stuck to that for 6 months, I would have just been stuck for 6 months. And thankfully at the time I was in California, someone just recommended, hey, why don't you try solar since you're in California, because it's popular there. And so I just tested it, where I reached out to that industry, solar, with the same strategies. I was using email and LinkedIn, which didn't really work that well. I wasn't getting a ton of calls, but now the calls I was getting was higher quality people that were actually willing to show up to the call, people that were actually willing to pay because they had the money to spend. So I realized everything had got a lot easier after I had tested this new thing. So I started testing other new things like different outreach strategies. And so I started doing Facebook outreach more, Facebook business page outreach, which is a little different. Also doing SMS outreach, which nobody was doing at the time. I've never seen anybody do that. And I went from 2 to 3 sales calls per week to 10 sales calls per day, just using these different strategies. So the next lesson I learned was just test a ton of different things. And you can combine that with the first thing, which is do a lot more consistently, more than you think you should do. So I can test like 10 different industries in one day, rather than some people who stick to one industry for 6 months and then realize it doesn't work after 6 months. We could have figured that out within 3 hours of testing. Here's an example. I did these 10 different tests to 10 different industries, trying to see who was most responsive to these messages. And as you can see, concrete got a pretty good response, but HVAC got almost nothing. And this took maybe 2 hours to set up all these different things and test all of them at once. So again, it's very easy to scale. It's linear scale, right? So if I send out 20 messages, I'm going to get this many replies. If I send out 200 messages, I'll probably get the same amount of replies in terms of percentages. And we can just automate that. So it'll automatically send out 200 messages for me, and it'll send out 200 messages across these 10 different industries for me. I went to Vid Summit a couple of years ago, and this is the guy that's created Speechify. He was giving a talk. His name is Cliff, and he actually had a really good talk, which was about how he runs his ads. And he was showing his ads library, his ads platform, and he was saying that he runs like 100 different variations of his ads every week. And he also tries to test really crazy things that nobody's doing in that industry, which absolutely helped him because now he has over 100 million users on his app. So now at the time I had tested these different industries, so now I know solar and roofing work a lot better. I also tested a whole bunch of different strategies, so now I'm getting 10 sales calls per day versus only 2 sales calls per week. So literally the day that I closed my third client, I closed the next client just a couple hours after the third client. And then it kept spiraling from there, where I probably closed 50 to 60 clients that first year, then about 300 clients the next year, and about 1,000 clients the next year. And now I can just get clients on demand, and I still test a whole bunch of different things, but it is super freeing to wake up every morning, where I remember at the time I was sleeping on this twin bed on the floor in my apartment, and I would wake up and there would be text from people on Facebook that were saying, yes, I'm interested. How does it work? And it was super freeing, where I just set up this automation. It sent out 50 messages yesterday. I get about 3 to 5 positive responses. I get one person to book a call, and I can wake up every day and have more people interested. And it was super easy. And you can do that across Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and whatever else. Again, obviously it's worth testing all those things. It shouldn't have taken me 2 years to close 3 clients, but for your sake, please just apply these lessons. 1, do way more volume than you think you should do. You're thinking 20 per week. I'm thinking 200 per day. Don't worry about any of the responses you get or feeling weird by actually sending out these messages. If you're not making someone mad by noon every day, you're not marketing effectively. And test a ton of different things, and test them all in one day. Test them at high volume, because you'll learn a lot more really quick if you just do that, rather than sticking to one thing for 6 months and then not getting anywhere with it, which is what I kind of did. And the last thing is just stay consistent with it. And I'm not talking about stay consistent for a year, where you have to eat dirt for the next year before you actually get a client. You do not, because I barely did anything within that first year from 0 clients to 1 client. You just have to be consistent for literally just 2 weeks. And if you do it for 2 weeks, I guarantee you'll have clients if you're sending 200 messages a day rather than 20 messages a week. And if you're testing 10 different messages a day rather than 1 message for the next 6 months, you know? And if you're not getting anyone interested, that's probably because you're not even testing anything, testing different variations. You're probably not targeting an industry that people are responsive, so testing a different industry, or your offer just sucks, where you're trying to sell websites to people that already have a website, stuff like that. And so if you're trying to figure out the best scripts to use, you can watch my video about all the different scripts that I have actually tested myself and got the best results for. You can watch that video next. And if you want a system to consistently get 120 sales calls per month, you can book a call with me below. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.